Greetings, everyone. I'm Michael, and this is Credit Kuri, where we talk about credit, finance, and investments. Today, we're going to talk about credit card fraud. Credit card fraud is an ongoing concern for Americans, and rightly so. Data breaches continue to rise, increasing almost 45% in the U.S. since 2017. Credit card fraud is now the most common identity theft crime, but these numbers barely scratch the surface of how widespread credit card fraud has become. We're going to go over a few of its forms so you can get a good idea of what they are, so you can avoid them in the future. Credit card fraud takes many forms. First form, skimming. When a thief places a device on a credit card scanner and transmits the data to a nearby mobile device, then uses it to create a counterfeit card. Second form, phishing. When thieves try to extract personal information from you via emails or over the phone. Third form, lost or stolen credit card fraud. When a thief uses lost or stolen credit card for physical or online transactions. Fourth form, card not present fraud. Fraud committed online or by phone when the thief does not have your physical card in their hand, but they have obtained your card details by other means. Fifth form, accidental credit card fraud. When a friend or relative believes they had permission to use your credit card, but you didn't know about it, or the person charged more than you expected. Chip and PIN cards, otherwise known as EMV credit cards, after Europay, Visa, and MasterCard, the three main credit card providers, have helped reduce certain types of fraud. In the U.S., counterfeit and frauds have dropped 45% between September and December of 2018, according to the study by Visa. But card not present fraud remains a huge problem, and it could cost retailers billions worldwide. As a consumer, it is important to know your rights when fraud occurs. You should also get familiar with the steps you can take to protect yourself and what to do if your card is compromised. Report fraud in a timely manner. Most credit card companies today offer zero liability fraud protection if you report the charges within 30 days. By law, your liability is limited to $50 for card present fraud. If your card number is stolen but not the physical card, the Fair Credit Billing Act releases you of any liability. Regardless of liability, you obviously want to report fraud as soon as you notice someone is using your account. If you don't report the fraud, you'll be responsible to pay the bill when it comes due. Once you make a claim, you're not responsible for any charges under investigation. You just have to make your minimal payment based on the charges you made that month. Getting ahead of the issue and reporting fraud as soon as you notice it can save you the headache of disputing charges. It's a best practice to regularly review all your credit card statements to make sure you're able to quickly catch any transaction that you didn't make. This can help you protect your credit score. In case of debit cards are a different story. You want to call your bank immediately if you notice your debit card is missing or think you may be a victim of fraud. If you don't report fraudulent charges within 60 days of your most recent statement, you could be liable for all charges made by the thief. Wait more than 2 days after you learn about the loss, and you could be on the hook for up to $500 of fraudulent charges. If you report within 2 business days after you learn about the loss or theft of your card, your liability drops to $50. Dispute all charges you didn't make. There's no limit to the number of charges you can dispute. If a debit card is stolen, thieves could gain access to any link account, tapping into thousands of dollars or more depending on your available balance. Review your online statements carefully and look for any charges you don't recognize. If possible, cross-reference against paper or email receipts to ensure the charges are yours. Provide investigators with the information they need. Once you file a dispute, you might wonder who's investigating the credit card fraud. In most cases, depending on the number of fraudulent charges, the bank or credit card company handles it through their internal fraud department. In the case of identity theft or higher amounts of fraudulent charges, local or state police or even the Federal Bureau of Investigation may be called in. Fraud investigators are experts at tracking the origin of charges. They can match this data up with information the customer provides to determine if the charges are fraudulent. You can help the investigation go faster by providing any records the fraudulent investigator requests. What usually happens in the end? Once you report fraudulent charges and provide any necessary documentation, the bank has 30 days to respond to your issues and begin an investigation. From there, the bank has to complete the investigation within 90 days. Fortunately for most consumers, most instances of credit card fraud end with the dispute charges being removed or money placed back into your bank account. In the meantime, you should have received new cards with new account numbers to replace the compromised accounts. You can also place a fraud alert on your credit account with all 3 major credit bureaus to prevent additional instances of fraud. If you place a fraud alert on your credit file, you can't open new credit without additional verification of your identity, usually involving a phone call from a creditor. Who pays for credit card fraud? If consumers aren't liable for fraud charges they report promptly, it begs the question, who pays for credit card fraud? The banks or credit card issuers shoulder much of the burden of fraudulent charges. In the case of debit card fraud, the banks must reimburse the account holder. Often, the credit card company is liable to pay the merchant for the fraudulent credit card purchases made. But if the banks can prove that lax security measures led to the fraud, the merchant may not receive money for the fraudulent charges from the bank. For instance, if a merchant fails to use a chip reader at point of sale or an e-commerce site is determined not to be secure, they can face fines and also be held responsible for the fraudulent charges. In the rare case that the thieves are caught and convicted, they might have to pay retribution to the banks or the merchant, but most credit card fraud goes unpunished simply because thieves are so hard to catch. Fraud costs merchants and banks money. As fraud continues to occur, retailers and banks may increase price or fees, passing those costs on to the consumer. That was our video about fraud methods and how to avoid it in the future. If you have any experience with credit card fraud in the past, please share your story in the comments below. Thanks for watching and enjoy your day.